Okay, thank you very much, Abuja, for staying tuned into 95.1 Nigeria Info, your passionate, trustworthy, and conversational radio. This is where I officially welcome you to Hard Facts with yours truly, Kimberly. Yeah, the Oracle, the digital Oracle, OTF, the fellow, Ochanya One, Madam Speaker. And I'll be here till 7 p.m. We're going to have a fantastic, amazing conversation together. There's so much to look at. We'll start off looking at some of the big stories driving conversation in Nigeria. And then at the 5 o'clock hour, our focus will be on the movie industry, talking with one of our ace producers. Hopefully he makes it here. And as stories develop, as things break, as things evolve, trust us. We'll bring it and we'll get your take on the stories also. So welcome again. I hope you've had lunch because, it's not easy talking Nigeria issues on an empty stomach or when you're dehydrated. So guzzle some water and just relax because it's going to get intense. Yes, Dr. Majeed is here. He's a researcher, a columnist, and the tech team lead of Luke's Terra Foundation. Majeed Dahiru. Good afternoon and welcome.
Oracle.
Delighted to have you again. Thank you, sir, for making it to the studio.
Thank you very much.
Yes. The ministerial screening is ongoing. Minister of Livestock Development at this point is speaking. And like you pointed out last week, because you were on the show when the list came out and we're talking about it, it's a good thing that portfolios are tied to their nomination. And so they're going to go in front of the National Assembly to defend their job.
Specific questions, straight to the point questions, very relevant questions. This is how a screening exercise for ministerial appointees should be. And I hope that this will be the norm going forward. Honestly speaking, this came from an unlikely precedent that has attached portfolio to 7 nominees. We wish to see more of this attachment of portfolios to nominees across all ministerial nominations. It's very important so that people will know what to ask, how to scrutinize the prospective nominees as to their competence, their skill sets, and the right level of integrity to handle such MDAs. So this is quite commendable. I'm sure if anybody watching this now, it will be more interesting because you'll be hearing specific questions, particularly as it concerns the novel, ministry, such as the livestock ministry. So it's a good development, really. Irrespective of some other misgivings people may have about the nominations generally. But the fact that portfolio has been attached, this is the first time in history.
To the best of my knowledge, in recent history,
this is the first time. And it is a very good one. It's a positive development. So that one can even now hold the ministers accountable on the basis of what they're going to actually promise here, the ideas they're going to share here, and let's see how we can use that as KPIs to monitor and evaluate the performance going forward. So it's a good development.
Indeed it is. All right, let's look at some of the stories. I know for a lot of you are still wondering why the price of petrol is going up. I feel like Dr. Majeed will be exhausted talking about anything around this sector right now. I feel it is very draining because yesterday some people went to NNPC and found out the price had gone up by 13 naira. And they were wondering what exactly is going on. For how long will this continue? And I told one of them, I had 2 people call me and I told one of them, well, I'm sure you heard our guest say repeatedly that this is going to continue because it's a free fall at this point in time. And one other interesting aspect to look at also is, the data that is emerging as to how consumption is reducing. It's start to really wonder, is it that we're using less petrol? I know last week you did talk about it and say it's also indicative of how badly the economy is doing if we're not using more of the petrol. But if you're saying that initially that we were using 60 million liters per day and it has dropped 92% to 4.6 million, that is such a significant drop that is almost not believable. How do you go from 60 million?
You need to understand that a lot of businesses in Nigeria have folded up or are no longer working optimally. And also some production outfits are no longer performing or working in full installed capacity. I mean, it's clear, we can see it all over. The day the NBS will release the figure of unemployment, I don't know how I want it to look like anyway. It's an indication of low level of productivity. And I don't know at what point we're going to get to before we realize that we are on a path to perfidy. I don't know at what point our policymakers will realize that. Look, These are the holes so there. It's taking us nowhere. It's like you are in a hole and still digging. So it's a bottomless pit of hopelessness. There's no light at the end of such a tunnel. This is energy.
Well, Dr. Majeed, really, I mean, I know what you're talking about, but my head cannot.
See, there are twin
60 million to 4.5 million liters a day.
That this government actually brought on board. They floated the exchange rate regime, and then they regulated the downstream sector, particularly as it concerns petrol. So essentially, they move subsidies, so free for all and all of that. So the price has been falling freely. Now, if you observe, the government is trying through the CBN to hold on to the exchange rate to make it a bit stable, but it's increasingly becoming more difficult. So I understand that the naira has come out on 7 again as against the dollar. You know, so for any marginal increase in the price of the dollar against the naira, for any marginal depreciation, rather, let me use that word depreciation, is going to impact consequentially on the price of petrol. Because the petroleum industry in Nigeria, the downstream sector is dollarized. It is internationalized, even though it is operating domestically, and hence internationalized and dollarized. Even the naira for crude, template you are seeing, is going to be fixed at an exchange rate that is prevailing in the market on that day. So the only thing is, don't bother going to Zone 4 to go and mop up the money. Just give us the naira equivalent to go and mop it ourselves. So the only difference will be transfer money from NNPC to Zone 4, which is no more than 1,500 naira per drop. That's all. So it will really make no difference. So as long as the foreign exchange keep depreciating in Nigeria against the naira, you're going to see a marginal increase in price of petrol continuously. The only saving grace for us is it will be for the government to somehow magically firm up the naira, bring it under control to some appreciable level of exchange rate, and probably if there's a sudden slump in the price of crude in the international market, maybe it might impact price. But until this happens, these two things happen, we are likely going to see consistent upward movement in the price of petrol for as long as I can see. You see, we have warned that this is the nature of energy. This is the reason why no country that is reasonable, that knows what it is doing, will contemplate allowing market forces to dictate the price of energy. I don't know any country where that happens. Not even America. I don't know. Not China, not Saudi. For instance, Saudi Arabia has held the price of petrol constant at about 63 cents for 2 years. Constant for 2 years. It's because you need that level of price stability for producers to be able to forecast, produce, and have some level of stability in their budget and fiscal planning as well. So if today, for instance, I go to the market to buy petrol for 1,000, is it 1,000? I don't even know
50, 60, 1,100, depends on where you're buying from.
Into my cost of production, and then I finish producing, and suddenly the price has changed. How am I supposed to recover my cost? Won't I fall out of business? Because I've simply sold at below cost price, because I will not need more money to not go back to the market to produce again. For how long will I continue the cycle of loss?
Okay, well, I mean...
And production shortfall. Even petrol dealers themselves are affected by this.
Well, about 1,000 of the independent petrol marketers, a lot of them are already calling closing shop.
And the product is high for them to buy.
The cost, yeah.
So how do you go and take a loan from the bank at double-digit interest rate? And they go to market. You procure products. And nobody's buying it. Look at the consumption rate as well. Nobody's buying.
Dr. Majeed.
So what kind of business are you doing?
The math is still not adding up for this 92% drop in consumption rate. I feel like we're missing something here. Is it that the figure that was put out before is falsified, that we indeed were not consuming 60 million liters a day, or that a lot of the smuggling was done back then, or something? It's not real.
Smuggling story, I think, is our policymakers try to use smuggling as a tool of blackmail to justify increase in price. It's like telling me that because of the fear of smuggling of petrol from Saudi Arabia into the southern borders to Yemen, that is war on, Saudi will stop subsidizing petrol for its citizens. Or because of smuggling of petrol from America to Mexico, for example, America will stop subsidizing petrol within its borders. Or because you smuggle food from America into Mexico, so America will stop all of its massive support for food production because it's going to be smuggled to Mexico. I said it because Mexico is a third world country that just beside America, United States of America. So you're going to stop all forms of welfare packages for your own citizens because somebody is going to take it across the border. So the question I keep asking them is this: don't you take that indictment on you and the government you are serving in to say that tankers can leave your country without being detected? If tankers can leave Nigeria without being detected to other countries, as they claim, how are you not going to protect Nigeria from the menace of arms smuggling into Nigeria? Light arms and small weapons, for example, they can be concealed even under the boot of a vehicle. How are you going, if your security sector cannot prevent tankers from leaving Nigeria, how are they going to prevent the smuggling of light arms and small weapons into Nigeria? So I want investors to come to a country that is so poor that tankers can live undetected with millions of liters of petrol. So when they make these claims, they don't know that it is self-indicting. Leave this reality. One thing is for sure, even at 60 million liters consumption rate, it is too low for a country of 200 million people that claims to have a GDP of $500 billion, which is now about half of that anyway.
Yeah.
It is too low. You see, energy, particularly fossil fuel derived energy products, like petrol especially, is a major driver of economic activities all over the world. And I'll tell you something today. I've said it before anyway, but I'll repeat it today. Petrol is so important for global economy that the Chinese, for example, consume 800 million liters per day. On the average, 800 million liters.
Well, there are a billion 400 people, 1.4 billion.
Okay, so do the math. You have 200 million. So do the ratio and see. I know what you are supposed to be consuming based on that. The United States is about 300 million people. They have a larger landmass, no doubt. But they consume over 1 billion liters per day. Sometimes it's 1.2. It can be higher than that. But on the average, about 1.2 billion liters per day. Now, Saudi Arabia, for example, is so in need of petrol that, whereas Saudi is about the 8th or is it the 5th exporter of petrol globally, refined petrol, Saudi is also a major importer of refined petrol. In fact, the production of petrol is the 4th most imported product into Saudi Arabia. That is, petrol is so important to the economy that even though they're a net exporter of petroleum, they still import to augment any shortfall that might be there. So how does Nigeria think it can exit the use of fossil fuel to drive its economic activities, industrialization, and switch to any other means overnight? It's something that still beats my imagination. And that is why in each of these jurisdictions, the government spend billions, if not trillions of dollars to ensure that this important product that drives the economy is affordable. I call it affordability threshold. Every government measures the affordability threshold of a citizen in terms of energy consumption or energy utilization. That is, a government is supposed to do that. Okay, for this amount of money that is earned as minimum wage, realistically, so how is an average Nigerian supposed to survive in a month? On transportation, or for those who have cars, or following their cars to work, a government will sit there and think it through and say, look, with 70,000 minimum wage, a level 8 officer who has to go to work every day from some reasonable distance should not spend more than, say, 15% of his salary on transportation, including the person going to fuel his car. So you now price whatever is going to drive the cost of transportation appropriately to bring you within the affordability threshold of your average citizen. That is why subsidy must always be in place for energy. That's what you can't run it from it. You know what? That's running from it. We'll run around.
And come back to it.
We see, at the end of the day, there's a day of reckoning. We'll still get there. But then it will be clear to everybody that this idea has failed. This orthodoxy has failed. It was not tested anywhere in any part of the reasonable hemisphere, so it cannot be tested in Nigeria and succeed. It's not possible.
Maybe you would have bought the government sometimes to save up some money into something else, perhaps.
It's like
because for every month
like
of the subsidy is more money in the coffers of the government.
You deprive yourself of oxygen to save money to cure yourself of headache. You will die before you say, "For that money is useful to you." This is fundamental. It doesn't stop you from saving money. Stop corruption, you save money. Simple as short. Become productive. Each time we talk about energy subsidy here or energy security, we also give a way out to say, look, the best way for government to raise money is to productive. The countries we've talked about here, Saudi Arabia, China, United States of America, etc., these countries are very productive. America has state-owned enterprises. America, state-owned. And, if you look at America and look at the level of entrepreneurial capitalism and assume that indeed government does not actually have a hand in doing business, and I say, that is an error. Let me take you back to something fundamental that you must understand. Today, the United States of America is a leading power in terms of information, ICT. I think America is the global superpower in ICT.
More
China sometimes.
Okay, let's go on a quick break.
To this. 365 days of conflict. Hamas attack on Israel on October 7th killed 1,200 and kidnapped 250. To date, Israel has killed over 42,000, including 17,000 children, and decimated 70% of Gaza. These are not just numbers, they are lives.
Hello, my name is Kimberly. I'm the host of Hard Facts, and I bring you the biggest stories driving conversation every weekday here on 95.1 Nigeria Info Hard Fact Show. I love to get your opinion and conjectures, but the facts you cannot dispute here on Hard Facts. Join me and let's talk.
This is Nigeria Info. Nigeria Info. This is Nigeria Info. Nigeria Info.
Thank you so much for staying with us. We're still on the roundtable looking at some of the big stories driving conversation, and we're looking at the petrol sector, which is an important one for us in Nigeria Energy. The price has gone up for NNPC by 50 naira. Dangote is trying to explain the scarcity we're seeing and say we have abundance in the Dangote Refinery. Why are you guys importing more petrol into the country if consumption indeed has dropped to 4.6 million liters per day? It means that we pretty much can generate what we consume in the country. The chairman of Dangote Group Tuesday urged petrol marketers, including the NNPC, to source petrol directly from his refineries to meet local demand. This came as data obtained from the Nigerian Port Authority show that the NPA is expecting a vessel with 20,115 liters of PMS, popularly known as petrol, as at today at the Tinkan Island port in Lagos. Dangote confirmed the refinery's readiness to supply fuel after closed-door talk with the president at Aso Rock. It was part of the delegation of the Implementation Committee on Crude Oil and Refined Product Sales in Local Currency, led by Chairman, Minister of Finance, Mr. Wale Edun. NNPC GMD, Mr. Mele Kyari, was also at the meeting, and the committee was at the villa to brief the president on his activity since the federal government first announced the policy last year and stated that the refinery can produce over 30 million liters of fuel at full capacity and currently holds 500 million liters in reserve, enough to supply the country for over 12 days without import. So he says, we have it in abundance, come get for us, all your queues will disappear, and NNPC and the independent marketers, you're free to come to us. But we have the fear queue in most part of the, at least I remember even Abuja, the queues are there.
Producing petrol. His facilities is not able to meet up with the local daily demand. He pledged to release 25 million liters per day every day from September.
But he's saying that they already have 500 million liters in reserve at this point, giving the impression that you can meet.
Let him quit the semantics. how many liters are you producing a day? Be specific. You should have the capacity to produce 30 million liters a day. How many have you been producing?
But if our consumption has reduced to what it's reduced to, if we're to believe that indeed what we consume now is in the range of 4.5 million or 5 million liters, it means that it can pretty much service the country.
Even before this consumption dropped, before this latest figure, the consumption has dropped. When the consumption was the required consumption was between 35 and 45 million liters. When Dangote and the NNPC had that deal for tobacco weight, Dangote was supposed to supply 25 million liters. And that's why the NMDPRA did not issue licenses for production of products for the month of October and September. Believe that Dangote can meet the local demand. But Dangote underproduced. So underproduced that in some cases, in some days, instead of 25 million liters, we barely got 4 million liters from Dangote. Now when scarcity is returned, even when prices became higher. As it was in this to resolve the problem of our own affordability and our own availability, that the federal government decided that, okay, NMPRA should issue our licenses for importation for the month of November. That's why the cargoes are expected to arrive anytime from now, because it was supposed to be for the month of November to meet up with the shortfall. Let him quit this semantics. If there is product, marketers would have bought from you. Why would they buy? Didn't they buy from you before? They bought from you in September throughout. There was no importation of petrol. Any petrol you see in this country was from Dangote between September and October. And the petrol you buy today is still from Dangote. It's only about the next 48 hours probably that the imported one will start going to circulation. So I don't understand the semantics that the game is playing. In any case, free market. I repeat, it is free market enterprise. Dangote, you signed on to free market enterprise when you also supported the PIA. I began to release product from your refineries. So marketers are also at liberty to import. If your own price and your terms and conditions of contractual relationship is not convenient for them. And let me say this with emphasis. There's no country that relies solely on local refined petroleum. No, you know why? Energy has many components. I've said it before. Accessibility is one. Affordability is another. That's what I talk about subsidy all the time. Then availability. You see, for availability to be attained at all time, supply must always exceed demand. So whether your consumption is 4.5 million liters per day or not, petrol does not expire. Continuously buy it and store. In case a day may come that there could be disruption in the supply chain, either locally or from external supply sources, you would have up to 1 or 2 years of supply stored away to continuously feed local demand until the disruption is actually rectified. So at all times, it is always better to have excess, not for 12 days, for 6 months, for years. Now in America is a major oil producer, one of the biggest oil producers in the world. America produces as much as between 8 and 10 million barrels of crude per day. America also imports petrol. America has 132 working refineries. 132 working refineries. America imports petrol. America also exports petroleum products. Saudi, that I talked about earlier, Saudi is a major exporter of refined petroleum products from its 5 refineries scattered across the country. Saudi also imports refined petrol. It is something with China, something with India. The largest market in the world is in India. India exports refined petrol, India imports refined petrol. South Korea, the same thing. You cannot rely only on your own international sources. The only problem is for an oil producing country, you can now rely wholly, as Nigeria used to do, on imported petrol. So that should be a fair balance, a healthy balance. So for an oil producing country like Nigeria, it is good that Dangote is refining locally and supplying the local market. Do not forget that Dangote does not have an obligation to sell its products locally.
Already, I hear that Ghanaians are looking in his direction.
Dangote exports his diesel and other products, including his petrol. There is no obligation on him. So Dangote can decide today to say all of my products from today to 200 days ago away has been mortgaged to some other buyers. It is within his right. He's the free trade zone. There's no law under the PIA that mandates refiners to offload any percentage of a product, all of it, into the Nigerian market. No. So what he has the liberty to export, if he likes to export all of his products, you must keep supply chain open. So long as there's no special pricing advantage from Dangote, there's no subsidy, there's no price intervention. The Nigerians should simply buy petrol from the cheapest sources that means the right quality.
All right.
So then they should forget this ambition of being a monopolist. And the worst the government can do is to encourage or to do anything overtly or covertly to make him a monopoly. No, we won't accept that as Nigerians. No. It will be the worst thing that the government, in fact, it will be worse than what the government has done by removing subsidy. Allow people that can import to import. That will price competition. You cannot come and tell me that we should stop competition because of refining. It's like those intenders that will stop buying another car because it's not producing cars in Nigeria. And then we should go and remain a businessman and stop this attitude of trying to monopolize every sector he comes into. Export your product if you can. Export them. Nobody forced you to build a refinery, for God's sake. So
But he was trying to meet a demand and solve a problem.
As long as that, no problem was solved. We thought that local refining would bring down prices. That was the only problem that made Nigeria stop. Even if I was knew that it wouldn't bring down anything, But the idea was, okay, maybe if it's refined locally, the price will be cheaper. It is not. So we don't have Nigerians don't have any emotional attachment to Dangote Refinery. He's a pure businessman, like the refiners in Rotterdam, in Antwerp, and in
Besides,
Russia.
the price didn't come down with his refinery.
It went up.
It went up, yeah.
So please, we don't have any emotional attachment to his refinery.
All right.
So please, all Nigerians want is, under the circumstance of deregulation, we want free market and competing pricing mechanism so that we can choose on the cheapest one. If imported petrol is cheaper in Nigeria, I'll buy the imported one. Dangote does not pay my salary. He's not in charge. It does not pay me stipend to remain afloat economically. So I'll buy only what is cheap for me to use. And I hope that the decision will be total. And there should be no advantage conferred on anybody. It's as simple as that.
All right. Let's look at some comment. Olatunde Ibrahim says, where is our beloved Dr. Majeed? He's in the studio. Okay, you sent this one early. You didn't see him. He's here. Kimberly, good afternoon, Dr. Majeed. Ibaye Bengba is also watching us on YouTube. Fabian Walkocha, yes. Josiah Oba, everybody sending their greetings to Dr. Majeed.
Thank
apparently, they're all salutations. No direct comment. Okay, I totally agree with you. The disparity in the consumption rate of petrol is absolutely unrealistic. Richard Ubu is saying. Amobi Hendrick says, Dr. Majeed and the Oracle, first time seeing. Okay, the Oracle, very well. You should view us more often. And on Facebook, where we're also streaming at Nigeria Info Abuja, Adama Keshim says, I'm so much in love with the man, Dr. Majeed. Thank you very much. Bernard Alibang, Dr. Majeed, you're welcome to the mic. Good looking, sir. And more salutations, apparently, coming in here. You can send messages via WhatsApp also. Good afternoon, Kim. Good afternoon, Dr. Majeed. With the removal of fuel subsidy, every fluctuation in the dollar directly impacts fuel prices, pushing costs higher for Nigerians, as highlighted by Dr. Majeed. Without subsidies as a buffer, the question becomes urgent. Why can't we focus on repairing our local refineries to address this issue? Is it too much to ask? If Nigerian refinery were fully operational, we wouldn't need to export crude oil, if only to re-import it as refined petrol at higher cost. Repaired local refinery will save us foreign exchange, reduce reliance on dollar transaction, allow Nigeria to benefit from value by products in crude oil. Importantly, local refining would also strengthen our currency, the Naira, by reducing our dependency on foreign markets. A functional refinery system is a practical solution that could stabilize fuel prices, create jobs, boost the economy, and relieve Nigerians' financial burden. It's time to make this happen, for crying out loud. Is it too much to ask? Not really, Merit B. Thank you very much for that. Daniel from AYA says, I really believe in that statistics. From 60 million per day to 4.6 million per day. Kim, I noticed the darkness are taking over Nigeria in the night where there's no NEPA light, unlike before where people burn fuel in their generators. The Nigerian government, led by Tinubu, has succeeded in putting Nigerians in absolute darkness. God is watching. 2027 is the year that Nigerian... Okay, Daniel, I wish you good luck with that. Let us see. I need to take it out because this report, I'm sure a lot of you saw it. It came out on the 21st of October, where it showed that the daily consumption of PMS in Nigeria dropped drastically within 1 year under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's watch. Data that was obtained by, I would quote one of the sources, the Channels TV, from the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Product Regulatory Authority daily truck out report, showed that the consumption as of August 20th, 2024 was 4.5 million litres per day. The daily petrol consumption of May 2023 before the pronouncement, subsidies gone, was 60 million liters per day, according to NMDPRA. So an estimation brings daily consumption down by 92% as at from May 29, 2023 of 60 million to August 20th, the last report they saw, to 4.6 million naira, which is a curious one, and a lot of factors are contributing to this, which you have highlighted.
Like someone actually pointed out, I remember that before now, it was easy for me, for instance, and my family to put on our generator whenever there is power, even during the day. Exactly.
Weekends, you can run it
around my neighborhood now. Truly, if there is no ADC light or power, no, it's a fact.
Particularly during the day, nobody turns anything on.
I'm talking about at night.
Whoa.
Yes. People can no longer afford. Do you know how much I'm burning per hour? How much is your salary? How much is your income?
To even fill my tank is a nightmare. I was just telling a colleague, I don't get liver to go empty, fill empty tank.
Yeah, even with the 70K minimum wage, it's a nightmare. So we are able to get money to afford to buy petrol for basics. Are you not saying that for citizens to sleep well at night with proper ventilation is now a luxury? Like I said, you can see the economy. You can see it. I went to a very high-brow restaurant recently. I went there in the morning, so there was no power. My dear, I ate my breakfast with my torchlight from my phone. Yeah, I didn't even blame them. This same restaurant has increased their price to the point where they are no longer able to do buffet because it's not realistic. If you put the price today, by next 2 days they've increased.
It changes, yeah.
So they stopped it completely. A price of a plate of food there has increased almost 400%. That is 4 times more than it was last year. So you go in now, you only meet 1 or 2 persons there. Nobody meets you, and So you cannot understand why they cannot put on their generating set to service you. And you too, you understand. You know where we know. So I don't know. This is the authority that is in charge of regulation. Yeah. So I'm even trying to be, circumspect around the figure. One thing is clear. The consumption of energy in Nigeria has reduced. It means Nigerians have become more energy impoverished. And energy poverty is a sign of economic underdevelopment, underproductivity. And it's a problem. It's not something to rejoice at all and say smuggling has reduced. No. Our economy is tanking. So you have seen that our economy has halved in size. Meaning gross
more than half in size. It's almost like a grinding to a halt if we're looking at the drop.
That is the point.
That's if the figure initially is to be believed.
What I'm just saying in essence is, whatever the figure was before now, the amount of subsidy alone and the flotation of the naira has shrunk. Because what importation has dropped. Are you aware? Importation has dropped. For the first, Nigeria is exporting more than they're importing. Yes. Has dropped drastically. That is, even trade has contracted because of the 2 policies. Yes. Because why would you contract? You go to China and bring a container and you sell. They've paid you. You want to go to China, you now require more foreign exchange to go and buy the same quantity of goods you bought before. Where are you going to get the money from? So we should be working for the banks continuously. There's no period of respite. So most people are now discouraged from importation. These are the issues. I was talking about productivity the last time. Look, America is the leading power today in ICT, right? They have the Googles of this world. They have the Facebooks of this world. They have all of these tech companies. And if you look at the balance sheet, for example, of some of these tech companies, like Apple, like this and that, it's almost larger than Africa's entire GDP combined. One company with trillions of dollars in balance sheet, a market valuation. So you begin to wonder, one company, just one company, right? But for these companies to come on board, come on stream, and dominate the world, and generate these massive levels of revenue. I mean, some of these companies have higher revenue than Nigeria as a country. Was because the country called America, United States of America, invested its own money first in developing a platform called the Internet. Internet is owned by the government of America as a platform. It's not privately owned. No private individual can develop Internet. It's not possible. It was domiciled in the Pentagon. It was the U.S. military that developed it. That is government doing business. In addition to that, we are young. You hear news of Americans flying into space and launching like here and there. You begin to wonder then, how can a human being just sit down and have nothing doing? And is flying all over the so-called space, going to moon, landing, coming back, and all of that. That is what America was building, a solid foundation for what you see today. Our satellite communication infrastructure. So we have an agency called NASA, National Airspace Administration Authority, government-owned. It's a combination of the internet, the many researches and satellite launches from NASA, in collaboration with Stanford University, though private, but largely funded in terms of research by the American government as well, that incubated the Silicon Valley. It is such output from these three institutions, or these three entities, that incubated the Silicon Valley, where Microsoft and all of that came out of and dominated the world and brought revenue and huge fortune to both the individuals as tech entrepreneurs and to the American government through heavy taxes. Have you seen the taxes that Facebook and Co. pay to the American government? Good. That was government doing business. Right. For American oil companies to go all over the Middle East and dominate and occupy and form the Aramco, it took American energy diplomacy for that to happen. That is, the government moved in and secured this deal and gave them necessary support to go in, explore and exploit. This is America's own way of doing business. So America's main source of revenue is from its overseas ventures, its dominance of global trade. Is this why America is wealthy? That's why the most important ministry in America today is not financial, it's not petroleum. It is Secretary of State. That is their own equivalent of Foreign Affairs Minister. Because America runs on global diplomacy.
So this is very consistent with the things that you said over time, that government needs to be involved in business.
So in the case of China looked at America and said, okay, wait, this one is a bit, you guys have already arrived, so this one is a bit too convenient. We need to be involved directly. So what did they floated companies all over the world? I can tell you today for free, any Chinese company you see anywhere in the world, construction companies, hotels, just name it, are mostly 98% owned by the state of China directly. What that means is, anytime you patronize any of their goods and services, so you are paying into the coffers of China. And now China is having over $3 trillion in its foreign reserve. The same to Saudi Arabia, same thing with France, same thing with Germany. The only exception in Europe is Britain. Why Britain is not the best of country in Europe? UK is not the best of countries. As for the Labour Party in UK, the Labour Party government in UK, it's trying to bring UK back to that era where social capitalism is what should underpin the economic philosophy. They're trying to stir that ship around now. Nigeria is insisting on flying before it won't learn to crawl.
All right, Doctor.
And we're in this doldrum. So the only way out for government to increase revenue is to move subsidies, raise taxes, levy people. That's the conversation we'll be having.
Well, talking about taxes, this is one of the stories to look at. We'll get to the phone lines. I see quite a number of you trying to call, and there's a lot of back and forth around the tax sharing that is a component of the reforms they're looking at. Yes, at the moment, the value-added tax is to be shared based on derivation and consumption, according to the proposal in the tax bill before the National Assembly. And the chairman of the Presidential Fiscal Policy and Tax Reform Committee, Mr. Taiwo Oyedele, clarified this one. He defended the proposal in the bill, saying it will guarantee fairness and long-standing criticism of the existing distribution formula. Oyedele was responding to the criticism to the VAT plan in the tax bill by Northern State Governors and Northern Council of Traditional Rulers and Chiefs at their joint meeting in Kaduna on Monday. Also yesterday, the Development Agenda for Western Nigeria Commission also rejected Northern leaders' complaint. And in his Twitter handle, he said, a state that produces food shouldn't lose out just because its products are VAT exempt, consumed in other states. and argued that VAT from services including telecom should also reflect the location of subscribers, thereby benefiting the state where goods or services originate. Acknowledging the governor's concern, he said the current VAT distribution is flawed and that VAT revenue is allocated with 15% going to the federal government, 50%, I beg your pardon, to state and the federal capital, and 35% to local government. Although the VAT Act does not clearly outline specific distribution detail, a minimum of 20% of VAT revenue to state and local government is based on derivation, while additional distribution factors include equality, 50%, and population, 30%. And the Northern Governors Forum, chaired by Gombe State Governor Mamadou Inuayaya, had complained that the proposed distribution could undermine the northern interest. The forum urged lawmakers to oppose the tax bill and any measure perceived as detrimental to the north at this point in time. So they're saying this would not favor our region. But this is what is being proposed in the amendment, to saying that it should be based on all of these factors, the distribution, which is something that I recall that the present minister of the FCT, when he was the governor, he called for that to a certain extent. Maybe different words, maybe different energy was applied, but it is what it is. What do you think of this, Dr. Majeed?
Okay, first, in principle, any extra or any increase in taxation for citizens, I am resolutely opposed to it.
But they haven't called for that.
Exactly. I want to set a background to my to my answer to this question. Secondly, I'm trying to say that I do not necessarily endorse the entire gamut of the tax reform bill. So anything at all that will increase taxes, levies, increase VAT from, is it 7.5 now?
Yeah, 7.5, that's what it is.
Anything that will increase VAT from that, I do not support at all. However, that apart, on this contentious issue of, VAT at whatever percentage, how is it supposed to be distributed from the common pool, right? So the question is, this new tax bill seeks to make it more reflective of derivation. That is, where it is derived from, should enjoy more, right? This is one of the most progressive tax laws I have actually seen in this country since its creation as a country.
This one?
Yes. This is a very good law, very good tax law. As a matter of fact, in my discussions with presidential candidates, 1 or 2, before the 2023 elections, I told them that this is one of the major tax reforms that should be carried out in this country. You know why? This has the potentiality of resetting Nigeria. We cry for good governance, we cry for restructuring, reconfiguration, or just name it. See this tax law. It has the potential to reset Nigerians and make Nigerians more egalitarian, more patriotic, more forward-looking. This is tax law. Finance. What this is going to do is, whatever you now need to do as a state, to one, domesticate businesses and productivity, which means you're not going to indigenize the people in your state enough for them to feel comfortable and thrive. You will now begin to do it. This law, if well implemented, can even abolish indigenous settler dichotomy.
Everybody becomes productive and acts where they are resident.
If you, in your own state, you say you don't welcome so-called strangers. If in your own state, you don't welcome cattle breeders because of their ethnicity, or you don't like farmers because of their ethnicity, okay? Whatever value is derived from their product, you will get to. So they go to where they are welcome. So for those of you that think because of religion, you don't want somebody else to also practice your own religion. If your religion does not forbid you from drinking alcohol, and my own religion forbids you from drinking alcohol, and I feel you should not drink alcohol, so you also not benefit from the productive revenues from this. So this is how it's supposed to be ab initio. In fact, this should be expanded to include company income tax. This should be expanded to include all forms of taxation. For me, taxes should be distributed.
Wouldn't that put some state at extreme disadvantage?
No. I'll tell you how. If you collect tax from, say, FCT, for me, return most of those taxes, the returns, return it back to where it was generated from. Secondly, not just the state, to the local government, to the world, to the communities down the line, and let it be published that, look, from this school, you people generated this. So, in budgeting for your welfare, for your schools, for your health care, for your road, for your social needs, you will know that this 80 million you generated in this month is what was put in the budget to fund your education, to fund your health care, to fund your road infrastructure. Transparently. Why? People will actually pay tax more, knowing that, okay, this now works for me. But most importantly, it will now encourage people, political leadership now, to know that you now need, in fact, you need to create the real environment for politics to thrive, so that you can benefit from this. And when the tax revenue comes and you consume it to truly, you do not use it well, people will leave your state and go to states where, if they pay tax, it comes back to them directly. This is a very good. In fact, this is what it should have been originally. Now, coming back to the issue of North and South, I think Northern governors should be very careful. Northern generally. This penchant for always coming together in Kaduna and challenging propositions based on regional, it makes me understand. It makes me wonder whether are they aware that Nigeria is in 2024? Why am I saying this? Let me ask you a question today, a rhetorical question. Between Alhaji Aliko Dangote, who lives in Lagos? Dangote has been living in Lagos permanently for as long as I can remember. Whose single largest investment is in Lagos? Whose single largest tax payment goes to Lagos state government for pay, or through Lagos to the federal government through company income tax, because his headquarters is in Lagos? And Obi Kubana, who lives in Abuja? Whose headquarters is in Abuja? Whose major taxes goes to FCTIRS, because he's an Abuja-based businessman? Between Obi Kubana and Dangote, who is really a Northerner, who is a Southerner? What? I don't understand. When we talk about Northerners and Southerners, please, who is a Southerner and who is a Northerner? Or who isn't a Northerner and who isn't a Southerner? I want to know. So who are the Northerners or the North that our governors are actually talking about? I want to know.
Well, Dr. Majeed, we're not going to pretend that we're a country of many nations, and every nation is represented.
The Northerner that lives in Lagos and pays VAT from Lagos, we benefit from the returns to Lagos.
Exactly.
With the road in Lagos, because Northerners say, okay, you Northerner, don't pass it to, because this is our money, that is our road. You Igbo man, don't pass this road. Or this public school, you can't attend because, I don't understand. So the Igbo man that lives in Kano, when you return his VAT back to Kano, I would exempt him from the utility or the money, what the money be used for. Let us stop thinking in terms of this artificial ethno-religious sentiments. It's baseless. I'm asking you, between the man that lives in Kano, who does business in Kano, who pays VAT from Kano, and the Hausa man now who lives in Onitsha, who does same, who is a Northerner in this context?
I mean, I was born, bred, and buttered in the North to this point of my life, my schooling and all. My parents have paid taxes.
And your name is Kimberly.
But I don't know if the Northern governors are speaking of my interests at this point in time because of the
so I know that in terms of tax payment, today you've drank Coke, maybe.
Water.
Maybe you have eaten shawarma yesterday. You have paid VAT on these consumption items into the cost of the Federation through FCT, which is in the North. So I don't know who is a Northerner, who is not a Northerner.
Maybe they're not speaking for who is a Northerner, but what they represent.
They're speaking for their pocket, the revenue that comes to them that they control. Not for Northerners. There are so-called Northerners living in the South. Perhaps maybe you even have more of them in the South. It depends on where your economy carries you to as a Nigerian. Now asking, is Dangote part of this North you're talking about? When Dangote's life establishment, the northernmost part of Dangote's investment is in Kogi, Obaja Cement Factory. So is Dangote a Northerner in this sense, or a Southerner? And Obi Kubana is Southerner or a Northerner in this context? When his headquarters of his hotels, his nightclubs, his restaurant are in Abuja. So if he's to pay company companies, he will pay to RSFC because his headquarters is in Abuja. So I don't understand who is more Northern and who is more Southern, or who isn't in this context.
All right. So we get your point.
Should create a progressive environment in their states for people to come and do businesses and thrive, and also generate enough revenue through taxation for them to benefit from. I will be surprised that people that move to North may not be Hausa, Ibira, Nupe, other aboriginal northern tribes or ethnic people. It could be anybody who simply now finds Gombe State conducive from a block industry, from a water factory. I was traveling from Kaduna to Abuja one day and I saw one truck. You know, these haulage trucks, these very mighty ones. Usually those who actually fabricate them, or tankers, petrol tankers. There's always this signature name of who actually fabricated it. And I saw Ifa Nchuku Gombe as the one who fabricated this particular tanker that was right before me. Meaning, Ifa Nchuku must have stayed in Gombe long enough to be a fabricator of haulage trucks and tankers, so they're not going to be fine in Gombe. So is Ifa in Gombe less northern than Dangote, who lives in Lake? I want to understand who is a northerner, who isn't. We need to challenge these ideas consistently. You can't mix politics and economy. This is economics, so economics.
All right.
So on that basis, their claim is flawed. Go and make your state viable to attract people. Domesticate them, indigenize them, make them free to do anything they want to do. If you don't generate equal number of, you will get it back. It's a challenge to any state that is underperforming. Go and do something on ground to make your state perform, and that's all.
All right, then. Let's go on a quick break. We'll take phone calls as we look at more stories after the break. Majeed Dahiru is still pretty much with us. Let's join Dorcas for the news at the top of the hour.
Lishabi, a man and more.
Is Nigeria Info. Nigeria Info.